This video is brought to you by FileHub. So it's been about 2 weeks since I moved away from the iPhone to try my hand at Android full-time with the Galaxy Note 10. And I've learned a lot kind of in that process. And I've generally been using Android as a second phone all the time, but moving things over fully has been interesting. And so the big question is, am I going to stay? Has, I think, kind of a surprise answer. But before I get there, let me tell you a bit about what was hard and difficult about moving and sort of breaking out of Apple's walled garden and going to Android. So the biggest one I think that hits everybody is iMessage. That's sort of the hardest barrier to getting out from Apple's ecosystem. So learned a couple things. MMS and SMS protocols are an absolute joke. When it came to messaging with my wife, for example, I switched to another messaging platform. So we use Facebook Messenger for us to talk. Outside of that, I switched a lot to WhatsApp for friends, and I ended up not missing iMessage as much as I would thought. But it did mean I had to remember which person I was using which messaging platform on, and just kind of made me wish Google would finally introduce a legitimate iMessage competitor. I really liked Allo. I thought Allo was heading in the right direction. I was bummed when they killed it. So fingers crossed that something comes out that gives you encrypted end-to-end messaging. So the next barrier I had was Apple Photos. And this might not seem like a big one to you, but for me, I have an 89 and 90-year-old grandparents who are using an iPhone SE, and the way they see pictures of my kids is through a shared photo gallery on the iPhone. So missing that was kind of a bummer, but I did find a way around it. So all the pictures I took on the Note obviously got backed up to Google Photos. So at night, I would download those Google Photos pictures to my iPad and then share those pictures out on Apple Photos there. So I didn't really leave Apple Photos, I just kind of used another Apple product to share it. And it was really just for my grandparents' sake. If I wasn't sharing with them, I could have very easily just used Google Photos and created shared galleries from there and send those out to the rest of my family. So the last hurdle we had to get over was AirDrop. And for you, it might not be a problem, but around the office and the studio, we generally share files and pictures via AirDrop. So for me, I utilized Google Drive a lot more, and it wasn't as giant a deal. And people want to share stuff with me, I just had them send me a link instead of AirDrop. So if you're worried about that being sort of a reason to not leave Apple, something you definitely get over just a few days in. All right, so that out of the way, let's talk about the experience of switching to the Note and Android in general. And sort of the caveat here is this is an Android experience as Samsung presents it. It's not sort of the Google Pixel experience. It's sort of how Samsung and Google work together to present their version of Android. And there's a lot to like about the Note 10. All right, so let's start with the screen. I've talked about how amazing Samsung screens are in the past. I'm not gonna go too much into it. I love the saturated colors. The screen looks like a legit sticker on there. I like that there are different color profiles to pick what you want. It is the best screen on any phone going. I like having the S Pen. I actually found myself jotting more notes down than I would like, and my kids were drawing a lot of pictures on it. It might be one of those things that after the 2-week period I start using less and less, but it is nice to have it. I don't have to worry about it being mounted on the back or losing it. I love that it's stored inside of the phone. The cameras on the Note 10 are an absolute home run for Samsung, and for all intents and purposes, they're pretty much the same camera setup from the Galaxy S10 Plus, and they're really good. I liked having the flexibility of the normal and having the wide and then having the extra telephoto. I used all of those. The front-facing camera was also really good despite just having that one sensor, not having the time of flight that you get with the S10 Plus. Everything looked amazing on it. Night shots looked great. Video looked amazing. I liked having super slow-mo even though it looked crazy grainy. And I thought portrait mode here looks really good. It does a nice job sort of cutting things out, sort of giving that DSLR bokeh look that I think people are looking for. And bilateral wireless charging, this is something that blew my wife's mind. She's not a tech person, she'd never seen this before. We were sitting on the couch and her phone was dying. And I was like, watch this. So I turned on wireless power share on the Note 10, put her phone on top of it, and like her jaw just dropped. So if you're hitting the road this holiday season, or maybe you're doing some travel for work, you're probably carrying a bunch of devices with you. App Power's File Hub can do almost everything that you would need in one device. So first, it's a wireless travel router. So if you go to a hotel and don't have Wi-Fi, you can create your own network, create your own secure network. You can also connect SD cards, portable hard drives, SSD wirelessly to your device, whether it's an iPhone, an iPad, a tablet, or a laptop, or an Android phone. You can stream your music, photos, browse documents. If you have a bunch of photos or video on your DSLR, you could back that up to your file hub. You can back up pictures from your phone or your tablet all the way to your own private cloud. So RapPower's got an in-camera app too, so if you're running out of space on your phone, for example, the pictures or videos that you shoot can automatically go back to the device. You don't have to use up really any of your internal storage if you don't want to. So this does a lot for around 60 bucks. If it's something that you're interested in, we'll link to it down below. Performance, and I would have liked the Snapdragon 855 Plus, and I think Samsung should have put that in the phone, but despite being the same processor as the S10 and the S10 Plus, 12 gigs of RAM and that processor make for a really fast experience. Whatever you want to do is going to be quick. Gaming, web browsing, I could have a lot of Chrome tabs open and nothing's slowing down. It was just a really fast experience. One issue that I had with the S10 and S10 Plus was the phone got a little hot when I was playing games. I didn't have any cooling issues at all with the Note, so it seems like they fixed those problems. So I didn't use the expandable storage card at all, but I like that it's there, and I wish that it was on the Note 10 as well. There's plenty of internal storage, but if I'm traveling and I've got a long flight, I always like to load up movies on a micro SD card. So I like that I have that option, even though I didn't really use it on the Note 10 Plus. So there's obviously a lot of stuff that I liked about the Android experience on the Note 10, but it was definitely not perfect. And while I liked having that optical fingerprint sensor built into the screen, it presented a ton of problems. As shipped, it did not work very well for me. In fact, it probably worked 50% of the time, and I tried the usual stuff. I registered my thumb twice, I did it at different angles, it still didn't work. What solved my problem was actually removing the pre-installed screen protector from the phone, and then it seemed to work a lot better, but of course then your beautiful screens loses that protection. So this next one seems to be unique to Samsung devices, but they always turn on in my pocket. Maybe it's a secure unlock, because I usually have it set up to a watch or location or Wi-Fi network to unlock without having to put in a password, but the phone was always on in my pocket whenever I pulled it out. Fortunately, battery life was a beast and it didn't really impact it, but just weird to have your phone on in your pocket. So I'm still going on the record as saying it would have been nice to have a headphone jack. Samsung was one of the last holdouts that still included one, and then the Note 10 is kind of where we started to bid farewell to the headphone jack. Not something that I have to have, but as long as I'm given a list of things I would like, headphone jack is still on there. And the other ones are stables with Samsung devices. Duplicate apps and a double app store for Samsung Galaxy apps. I wish it was just one app, and I wish there wasn't duplicates for absolutely everything that you get from core Android OS. So that was the Android experience on the Note 10, but there's a lot of general, broader Android stuff that I've really enjoyed using, and chief among them, and probably one of the biggest selling points of Android, is I could make the phone my own. I could pick widgets on the home screen, I could pick icon packs, I could change my phone with my mood. The phone could suit me instead of having to change myself to suit the phone like you get with other devices. That was awesome, and it's refreshing to be able to wake up one day and completely change the way my phone looks, in a lot of ways, how it behaves. Last but not a big deal for me, because I don't live in a 5G area, but if you want to experience 5G, you have to go Android. So I love that that's an option that at least you can pick whether or not it's right for you. But again, not everything is perfect. There were some things about Android as a whole that I didn't like, and the biggest one, and probably the biggest gripe I have with Android, it's an inconsistent app experience. Developers are trying to make apps work on different screen sizes, different resolutions, power. It's a lot of stuff for an app to work consistently across a plethora of different devices. So the app experience traditionally on Android is not as good as a counterpart on iOS, and I felt that a lot as I was using the Galaxy Note 10. So there's a lot of likes and dislikes about going to the Android side, and I've really liked it, and I found myself really enjoying Samsung's take on Android. I know it's kind of easy, and maybe it's sort of the cool thing to do to hate on One UI, but I think Samsung has done a really good job with it. I didn't find myself needing to put a launcher on it. The way it performed and the way it handles things, I really liked that experience. And I enjoyed Android as Samsung wants to give it. For somebody who's used the Galaxy Note Fold, it was so drastically different, unlike any other experience I've ever had with a phone. And I love that Android offers that, a completely new take on something you thought was stale. And I love the Galaxy Note 10 for what it is and what it does, but I can't wait to get my hands on the Galaxy Fold again. So when that finally comes to end of September, my SIM card will probably go out of the iPhone 11 and go into a Galaxy Fold. I couldn't be any more excited for it.